Let's talk about love. It's this thing we build our entire lives around. But why does it so often feel like it's built on shaky ground? One minute it feels eternal, and the next, it can just fade. Well, this is the exact puzzle that Father Michael Sherwin tackled in a really fascinating lecture back in 2013 at the Dominican School of Philosophy and Theology. He dug into why love fades, and more importantly, how it can endure. So let's dive into what he had to say. You know, a big part of the confusion might actually start with the word love itself. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. Father Michael brought up this great example from the book of Genesis. The ancient Hebrew word for love was used to describe a father's love for his son, a husband's love for his wife, and get this, that same man's love for a really good meal. Talk about a broad definition. So yeah, if our language lumps in romance with a tasty dinner, it's no wonder we get confused, right? And that brings us right to the heart of the matter. This really frustrating problem of why love doesn't seem to last. We talk about it like it's forever, but let's be honest, our own experiences often tell a very different story. Father Michael actually used a quote from the novelist Annie Dillard that just nails his feeling perfectly. In her book, a character leaves his wife for someone new, and he's just baffled. He asks himself, why does this new love feel so absolute, so eternal? Why does every single time feel like the time, even when you have a track record that says it probably isn't? And all this confusion really boils down to one central conflict, a kind of split personality when it comes to love. Is it a feeling that just washes over you? Or is it an action you choose to take? Let's look at these two faces of love. Okay, so on one side, you've got love as a pure feeling. Dillard's character calls it cliff jumping. And that's a perfect description, right? It's that wild, overwhelming, head over heels emotion that just happens to you. But then on the other side, you've got love as a choice, a directed will. This is the idea that love is something you do. It's about consciously deciding where to put your focus and working to keep the connection alive. It's less like jumping off a cliff and more like tending a garden. And that's the big debate, isn't it? Which version is the real one? Are we just along for the ride on some crazy emotional roller coaster? Or are we actually the ones driving, building this thing from the ground up? It really feels like it has to be one or the other. Well, to try and figure that out, Father Michael suggests we look to a pretty unexpected source, a guide from the 13th century, a philosopher named Thomas Aquinas. Now, I know what you're thinking. What can an 800-year-old monk possibly tell us about love today? But stick with me, because his ideas are surprisingly on point. So here's what's so cool about Aquinas. He completely rejects the idea that you have to choose. For him, it's not either or at all. He says that true human love is both things at once. It's a powerful physical feeling, and it's a deliberate choice you make. They're not separate. They're totally woven together. And he has this amazing analogy to explain how this works. He says, we don't have despotic control over our feelings. You know, like a dictator just barking orders. We can't just tell ourselves, be happy, and expect it to work. Instead, he says we have political control. A good political leader doesn't just command their citizens. They persuade them, they negotiate, they create conditions for them to thrive. That's how we have to be with our own emotions. You can't force yourself to feel love, but you can choose to do loving things, to create an environment where that feeling can grow. You guide them, you don't dictate to them. This really gets to the heart of how Aquinas saw us as humans. Father Michael sums it up with this incredible phrase. He said we are like a strange amphibian. We're creatures that swim in the material waters of our bodies and our feelings, but we also breathe the spiritual air of our minds and our choices. We've got a foot in both worlds. And of course, our love is going to reflect that same messy, beautiful complexity. Okay, so that's a really profound idea from 800 years ago. But the big question is, does it actually hold up? What does modern science have to say about it? Well, what's truly remarkable is that 21st century psychology is basically arriving at the exact same conclusion. Yeah, it turns out Aquinas was totally onto something. Modern research on emotional attachment shows, without a doubt, that we are biologically wired for connection. Our brains and our bodies aren't these isolated, self-contained units. They're more like open circuits designed to link up with and be shaped by the people around us. Father Michael breaks this down into 3 ideas he calls the 3 R's. First up is resonance. This one's simple. Feelings are contagious. You know how it is? You walk into a room where everyone's laughing and you start to feel lighter. That's resonance. Next is regulation. This is about how we physically sync up with each other. A calm parent can soothe a crying baby just by holding them close. And it works for adults too. A partner's presence can literally lower your blood pressure. And the last one, revision, is maybe the most mind-blowing. It means that over time, through our relationships, we can actually help reshape the emotional wiring in someone else's brain. A stable, loving partner can help an anxious person become more secure. We literally help build each other.
And here's the kicker. This isn't just something for babies. It never stops. The science is crystal clear that as adults, we still desperately need other people to stay emotionally stable. We're born with these open loops, as scientists call them, in our brains, and those loops can only be closed by connecting with someone else. So in a very real, biological sense, we just can't do it alone.
Okay, so this all leads to the big so what question, right? If our feelings are this messy, contagious thing that we can't just switch on and off, how on earth are we supposed to make love last?
Well, the answer is a real game changer. It suggests that making love last isn't some heroic solo battle you fight inside your own head. It's about building an environment. It's about creating a shared world with others that actually helps your feelings fall in line with your commitments. You have to train your emotions, and you can't do that in a vacuum.
So, how do you build that environment? Father Michael points to 3 really simple, primal things that humans have done for thousands of years to forge these deep connections: eating together, singing together, and dancing together. Now, these might sound like old-fashioned, quaint activities, but they're not. They are basically powerful technologies for building human connection. When you do these things together, you are actively creating that resonance and regulation we talked about. You're teaching your wild, cliff-jumping emotions to get on the same page as your deliberate choices. It's how you turn that initial, flashy fire of romance into something deeper, like a bed of hot coals that burns steady for a lifetime. Father Michael told this one story that just perfectly captures what this looks like. It was about a man who'd been married for 60 years, and he admitted, he wasn't stirred by his wife's beauty in the same way he was when they were young. But he said something much deeper had taken its place. He said, now, when her leg hurts, my leg hurts. That's it. That's a love where the feeling and the choice have completely merged into one. So when you put it all together, love starts to look less like a mystery you have to solve. It's not just a feeling you hope to find, and it's not some grim duty you have to grit your teeth and get through. It's more like a craft, something you build, a shared life that you create day by day, not just with one person, but within a community. And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. It is so easy to let these kinds of connecting rituals fade away in our crazy busy lives. So maybe it's worth asking yourself, what are the shared practices in your life? What are the meals, the songs, the simple moments you share that are actually building and feeding the loves that matter most to you?